Hey guys, Preston here. Welcome back to another video. Today I am recapping and reviewing the Steelers Week 1 26-16 win over the New York Giants. I'm rocking the Minka away jersey because we're the away team today. Minka was pretty quiet, but we'll kind of get into that. So overall, pretty solid game, pretty static. I'm recording this the night of the game, right after we won. Game started kind of slow for this team. Our first drive was... so basically the Giants got the ball, we held them, they punted it away, but on that punt, unfortunately, Deontay Johnson, on the first Steelers touch of the entire season, muffed the punt, gave the Giants the ball basically on the 1 yard line. Luckily, our defense held strong, held them to only 3 yards, held them to only a field goal, which meant we were able to catch up later on and get a decent drive going for us in the field goal. I'm kind of just going to go into some of these stats here. I don't want to play for play of this game. I took a little bit of notes, but I don't have them on me. Unfortunately, I lost them, but not much. Overarching themes is kind of what we're going to be talking about, and unfortunately, some injury news as well. I think some things we can look at good-wise for the Steelers team, especially on offense, was the fact we actually had an offense this game. It's something we've missed for a whole year as Steelers fans. It's great to have back. Big Ben really changes this offense around. The last time we had 26 points was week 9 of the regular season last year, which means we basically went the back half of that season, never reaching that total again, including the last 3 games, scoring only 10 points. So to come out firing this year with 26 is pretty great. Obviously, there was some rust to shake off. We only had a field goal in that first quarter. Big Ben looked a little tough at the start. He was missing a little bit of balls, some miscommunications going on, but it all started to get worked out towards the end of the game, and obviously there's more than just the usual rest going into this Week 1 game. Pittsburgh's always been pretty tough to watch in some of these Week 1 matchups, even without COVID. But you factor in the COVID dealing with it, no preseason games, less practices, and the fact that Big Ben missed the whole year and didn't get any of those things either really just shows a lot about this team. I'm really excited because, like I said, Pittsburgh has recently had a history of being pretty bad Week 1. They've crapped the bed a lot. Last year, notably getting blown out 33-3 to the Patriots with Big Ben starting that game, and including a tie to the Browns at some point, and not a good, although there's never been a good Browns team yet, definitely not a very good Browns team that year. This time was different. We came out swinging. Our Monday night streak continues. We're pretty darn good on Monday nights, and I love it. I wish we could play on Monday night every game, but unfortunately we can't. Stats-wise, though, for Big Ben, like I said, he picked it up in that second half when we put up 13 points. I really thought he finally came into his own on that final 2-minute drill style drive to end the quarter, which gave us some more points on the board. It was beautiful to see. And so overall, Big Ben finished 21-32 for 208 yards, 3 touchdowns with a passer rating 117. So a pretty solid game, a really good game. 200 passing yards is decent. It's nothing like crazy. It's nothing special. It's not like he had a 500-yard game or anything. Didn't even hit 300, but we didn't need to because of another guy we'll talk about later and how balanced this team kind of did and felt today. The no interceptions is the important part. I feel like it's been a long time since Big Ben has not thrown an interception. He did a really good job today. Not a lot of reckless plays. Not a lot of bad questionable throws. The only questionable thing he did today was there was one sack where he definitely could have got rid of the ball, but he held on to it way too long, which that's kind of something he's done throughout his whole career. It still sucks to see. But like I said, not a lot of mistakes from Big Ben today. He kept it. Maybe he's more conservative now with his age and his elbow, or it's just a good game and he didn't have to deal with it. But yeah, no picks. That's great to see. Hopefully we can keep it going. Unfortunately, the turnover streak did continue right away because of that muffed punt with Deontay Johnson. But Big Ben, like I said, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 117 passer ratings, a good way to get back into the flow of things. Hopefully, this means they start expanding a little bit because I'd like them to throw the ball down the field more. There was not a lot of deep ball stuff going on today. He averaged only 7.2 yards per attempt, which isn't great. It means he's a lot of dinking and dunks to try to get him used to it again. But hey, if it works, it works. So we'll kind of have to see. Rushing wise, off the receivers for a little bit, who obviously caught the 229 yards from Big Ben. Benny Snell really emerged today, if you ask me. This is almost like a coming out game. Unfortunately, he fumbled once, which is never great. He had a couple fumbles last year too. Fumbling still an issue. Apparently, we had 2 fumbles today. Luckily, we recovered one of them off a great heads-up play by Juju to notice the fumble and hop on it before the Giants could get to it. So outside of that fumble, though, Benny Snell had 19 carries for 113 yards, averaging 5.9 yards per carry, almost 6 yards per carry, and broke the 100-yard mark for the first time in his career. Pittsburgh has this thing they're kind of known for, where these second-year guys really start to come into their own and really break out. I guess most teams technically kind of have that, but Pittsburgh, I've really noticed they've done a good job with that, especially in that running back position. I'm not calling Benny Snell Le'Veon Bell, but it's almost a similar story. We think about they changed their weight a bit coming into that second year, got ready to go, and then instantly was able to carry the load. James Conner got hurt again. This time it was his ankle, unfortunately, so we don't know how long he'll miss. But honestly, if the coaches were smart, you'd have to think that depending on how it goes next week, Conner's job could be in danger. I like James Conner, but if we're being honest, he's on the last year of his deal. He's very frequently injured, and Benny Snell showed you signs last year, putting up similar numbers to James Conner, and so far this year having 113-yard games. Obviously, I don't want to overhype it, but he did very good, and in those carries, comparing directly to Conner today, who had 6 carries for 9 yards and averaged 1.5, Benny Snell obviously had a way better game. So keep an eye on Benny Snell. I have a feeling, I guess we'll see if Conner's good to go for that Broncos game, but I have a feeling I might get to see some Benny Snell carries regardless next week, and that'll be something that's awesome. Benny Snell, to me, is really looking like he has the potential to end up being a running back 1, and he probably will be next season, because I have a feeling, as much as we all loved Conner and his story, he might not return next year. Other rushers, not much going on there. Anthony McFarland, the rookie, was not dressed for active for game day today, so didn't get to see him at all. Jalen Samuels had 1 carry in the end for around 2 yards, so not much at all from him. They didn't get him involved too much. I think I saw him run a route or two, but the ball never went his way, really. Chase Claypool did have 1 rush to end the game on a nice reverse to pick up a first down on 4th and 1 to seal the game for us. But his effects were more on that passing game, but he's a very physical guy. It was great to see him kind of getting in space. Receiving-wise, continuing with the offense, this is kind of something I was expecting to see. Hopefully the yardage, like I said, if they let Ben loose a little bit more, the yardage will probably go up a bit. But the way it's spread out kind of really makes sense to me. You had 4 different guys all getting meaningful targets. Notably, the fact that Juju and Deontay Johnson both had 6 receptions for similar yardage. Juju with 6 receptions for 69 yards, but more importantly for Juju, 2 touchdowns. That's great to see. Him and Big Ben are connecting again right away. And I know there's some people trying to rule out Juju last year just because some people don't like his social media stuff in general, so they have something out against him. He's a fun guy. Some people don't like fun guys, I guess. And just the fact he struggled last year, but for some reason, I knew from the start, I mentioned this before, on group pages and stuff, I've tried to keep it remain as calm as possible with Juju, because I knew that first off, he missed 5 games last year and was banged up with knee issues and was banged up all year with turf toe and did various knee stuff. Plus the fact that he had 2 not great quarterbacks to work with. This was a bottom of the barrel offense last year, and he had Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges trying to get the ball to Juju, and it didn't work out most of the time. There was no faith in that Steelers passing game last year, mainly because of those 2 quarterbacks. I mentioned this the same time, too. Even Antonio Brown struggled with our backups. When Michael Vick was starting for us for a couple games back in 2015, I believe, Antonio Brown's stats were pedestrian at best, very minute, very quiet. And so I figured the same thing would kind of happen here with this offense as a whole, and I was right. Juju is looking more and more like his old self, came in healthy, had, like I said, worked out really hard over the offseason to get real nice. Looks more physical than he did last year. And he caught every ball that went his way, which is awesome. There's some people, we talked about some of his drops and stuff last season. He caught 6 receptions on 6 targets, which just means that the Juju chemistry was there, and they literally hit on everything they threw towards each other. So 2 touchdowns, very notable. Obviously got 2 of the 3. There was no rushing touchdowns today, which was a little interesting. I will take note of the fact that we were way more potent in the red zone again today compared to last season. So the year before last year, when we still had Ben, we were the first in the red zone percentage. Then without Ben, we were dead last. So it'll be interesting to see where we shake out this year. But we were off to a good start. I'm pretty sure at least 2 of those touchdowns I thought were red zone touchdowns. But Juju had 2 of them, which was great. He also had that little pylon camera celebration. I thought was awesome. It's great to see this team having fun again and doing very well. They can do that with Big Ben now. He's a big upgrade over the quarterbacks, and I thought it was a huge difference. Deontay Johnson did Deontay Johnson stuff. He struggled a little bit early on. I think that's more of a chemistry thing between him and Ben, and him having to get some confidence back after literally the first play of the game was him muffing the punt, and I think that obviously does a little damper on your confidence going into the rest of the game. He had 10 targets, so he did have 4 balls that really didn't work out. Some of them, were bad throws. Some of them were kind of out of the way, but there was, I think, at least one drop. But he got it going in the end. I think in the second half, that's where he got 5 of his 6 receptions, and he ended up with 57 yards. No touchdowns, but like I said, same reception numbers as Juju and similar yardage. That's something to keep an eye on. Those receptions are dead even, something I think we'll see more of. I think Big Ben is probably not going to force feed any wide receivers this year. He's going to take what's open and work with that, because I think while we may not have a true number 1, we have 4 number 2 receivers, which is to me that's just as good, having a true number 1 and then the 2, 3, and 4 when you can have 4 definitely true number 2s at worst receivers. That's awesome. And then you got Claypool and James Washington, who'll probably, I don't know, they seemed like they had a healthy mix in the rotation this game. They both only had 2 receptions. Like I said, there wasn't a lot. There's only 21 receptions to give around today, so not as high numbers as you see from all of the time. But Claypool made an impact with that giant play down the sideline, I think in the first half of the game, part of that drive that kept us going. It ended up with 39 yards. These two were definitely our deeper ball guys, because Juju averaged 11.5 yards per catch, along with Deontay averaging 9.5. Obviously, Deontay's good at dump the ball down, hand him, get him in space, make some stuff work. But Claypool and Washington really showed, they're more them deep threat guys, averaging 19.5 yards per catch for Claypool and 17 for James Washington, respectively. Showing what Deontay and Juju are very capable in those inside slot kind of areas, can work very well, make people miss, good route runners. Claypool and Washington are some dogs who you can get the ball up to and tell them go and get it, and there's a good chance they can get it done. James Washington had a very notable touchdown. The man ran hard as crap, took a pretty hard hit when he first caught it, stayed on his feet, and pushed right over the giant defender to score that touchdown with 3 Giants on him during the process. Great run, powerful run to get into the end zone off that catch. He ended with 2 receptions for 34 yards and that touchdown that I talked about. Great play there. Eric Ebron, the tight ends in general were quiet today, combining for just 2 receptions for 21 yards, but Ebron caught 1 good deep ball for 18 yards. That was his catching contribution for the day. Like I said, not a lot of targets to go around today, and the tight ends just weren't very involved in the passing game. They did use them to block plenty, though. I want to take note of that. Eric Ebron was actually out there for a lot of those blocks and actually did very good. So that's something he must have been working on to really improve on his game, because he's definitely been been known for being more of a receiving tight end than anything, but he did a very good job blocking today, and I'll give him credit for that. Connor, in the limited time he was in the game, had 2 receptions for 8 yards. Not bad. He's still pretty good at being a receiving back, but obviously, his ankle screwed him up right away. Couldn't even go through a full game, unfortunately, which the man's very injury prone. Hate to see it, but it's just a reality nowadays. Vance had 1 catch for 3 yards, kind of a little dump pass. Not much going for Vance today either. Like I said, the tight ends, and Samuels had 1 catch for 1 yard. Not much there either. Snell got nothing in the pass game going, but he killed it in the run game, like I said. My offensive player of the game, this is a really tough one. I think by default you have to go to Big Ben, because it's his first game back. He threw for 200-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and 117 passer rating. Pretty good if you ask me. Benny Snell, I feel like you have to make co-offense players of the game today, because Benny Snell had 100 yards rushing. That's something the Lions looked for years for a 100-yard rusher. Our backup running back was able to hit 113 yards with 5.9 yards per carry. Very impressive if you ask me. Giants-wise, we did pretty good. The best thing we did by far was we stopped that run game like crazy. We held the Giants to only 29 total yards rushing, and most of them were for Daniel Jones on that garbage time drive. We held Saquon to 6 yards on 15 carries. He averaged less than a half yard per carry. Throughout most of the game, at least up until even the third quarter, I believe he had 12 carries for -2 yards. He had negative yardage for a long time in this game. The fact that Big Ben had more rushing yards than Saquon Barkley proved we had a very successful game today. The defense, and Mike Tomlin even said him himself, they committed to shutting down the run game to a bit of a detriment. It meant they kind of left their pass game more exposed. They ran like Mike Hilton a lot on blitzes and stuff. And that might be part of the reason why, to me, the pass coverage was definitely more pedestrian today than I would have hoped for. I don't have 11 on 11 tape, like full tape, so I don't know how often they targeted Minka. I doubt they did it a lot. But that being said, Minka really didn't make any big plays today. No one on the secondary really did. It looked like Steven Nelson got beat a couple times, unfortunately. Darius Slayton was kind of working him pretty well, especially towards the end. And the one big play for a touchdown they did have early in the second quarter was Johnson getting burned. Although I believe from what I saw on Twitter, it was also a missed assignment that Hayden was supposed to drop back and help him out with that, and it was a miscommunication there. But either way, it sucked to see. It's pretty correlated. You'd see Nelson around usually when a receiver was getting a catch today. Saquon made up for his bad rushing a little bit with his reception game. Mainly, it was just a one play where he got 38 yards on a little screen pass. That kind of the one play he braked out for today, showing he's still dangerous and has potential. Finished with 60 yards reception. Slayton's the guy who was our issue today. 102 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And like I said, Nelson seemed to be on him for most of it. Tremaine Edmonds didn't look better. His third year improvement or whatever wasn't really there. I heard some decent things about him in camp, but he looked to be the biggest liability in coverage on that very long, like 98-yard drive they had. A lot of those balls were coming against the guys Edmonds was supposed to be covering. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Hopefully we can do that a little better. Like I said, 29 rushing yards is super impressive, but obviously that means you have to sacrifice a bit of the passing game, and they finished with 279 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Holding the Giants to 16 is pretty good. I mean, our defense does a pretty good job. If you can hold any team to under 17 points, that's pretty impressive if you ask me, especially when you kind of factor in the facts that the 3 points, the field goal, was solely because Deontay Johnson muffed a punt and they got the ball automatically in field goal range right at like the 1 yard line. It's more impressive that they held them to that than anything. And you pair that with the fact that last touchdown was more of a garbage time situation. It's a little more favorable. You almost can look at it and be like, they really held them. This like 6 points, which is just great. But 16 is what it happened in reality. The garbage time touchdown. I think we get better at that. We do tend to kind of just give up pretty easy in those garbage times, defensive plays. But got it done. Still won by 10 points. In reality, it looked a little better than that probably. But garbage time scores happen in games around the world. It is what it is. Defensively, this team, for the most part, did very good. Especially on that run game, they killed it. My defensive player of the game is probably Bud Dupree. Technically, according to ESPN, he didn't register a sack, but he had plenty of pressures, 2 tackles for loss, a pass defense, and a QB hit. That QB hit is what led to the Daniel Jones interception right in the red zone for Cam Hayward's first ever pick. And it was because Bud Dupree was breaking past the line super quick, causing havoc all day. One of the bigger reasons that Saquon couldn't get going is because Dupree was already back there by the time the handoff had happened. So yeah, like I said, the defense, the secondary was pretty pedestrian. They had decent tackles, but not a lot of numbers going on. There was multiple sacks today. I think there was 3 total from Stephon Tuitt, who is back. It's good to see him back, registering sacks already. That's great to see. Vince Williams, big old Vince, had a great game, if you ask me. 3 tackles for a loss, a sack, and a QB hit. A big part in shutting down a run game. We know him as more of the run-stopping linebacker. Behind the Steel Curtain, they have a YouTube channel with podcasts. They did a pretty good job at pointing out that Vince was sorely missed in parts last year in stopping the run game, and he did a great job clogging that up. Edmonds led in tackles, but like I said, that's because he kept some of those coverages were his fault. Devin Bush looked very solid tonight with 7 total tackles. That's great to see. Your middle linebackers should be getting more tackles than your secondary guys, and he did a pretty good job with that. And Hilton got a sack on the slot blitzing. They had him blitz a couple times from the slot tonight, which also hurt coverage, like I mentioned earlier. Tyson Alulu did pretty good, got through some pressures, got tackles for losses multiple times, got a good hit in on Daniel Jones. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Cam Hayward. Okay, so there's 2 interceptions. T.J. Watt didn't record a sack today, but he definitely got pressure, had a couple QB hits and tackles for losses. But his biggest thing is no matter what you do, you can't fully shut him out of the game. So they held him to no sacks, mainly because Andrew Thomas, the rookie, actually had a pretty solid game today. Or he might have been more, I don't remember who he worked on, but whoever worked on TJ did a decent job, and I think they actively tried to double him and stuff throughout the night. But he still made his impact by getting that interception that led to a field goal for us. So you can't stop TJ Watt. That's what we learned today, because even the games he gets held to no sacks, he usually ends up with a pick or something like that. So that's great to see. So 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. Doing what this defense does, forcing turnovers, was great to see. Unfortunately, it just evened our turnovers. Although we recovered the 1 fumble, so we won the turnover battle, technically. Returning-wise, not great for Deontay Johnson. Like I said, fumbled the ball away, and on the 3 returns he had, he got 13 yards total. Ray McLeod only had 1 kick return, but it looked very solid, going for 33 yards, and he kind of fell, or he could have broke it even more. That's something to keep an eye on. We have a very good kick returner this year, a lot of potential there. Boswell, minus the 1 doink, he missed his first extra point. He missed 0 extra points all last season, but he missed his first one of the year this year, kind of just a doink play. Kind of can chalk that up to the lack of preseason and stuff. A lot of kickers were making some suspect plays this weekend. Sorry, Bengals fans. But Boswell snapped back easy, hitting the 2 other extra points he had today and 2 field goals, including a 41-yarder. So very good job from Boswell as always. New punter, Dustin Colquitt, did a pretty solid job, punting only 4 times. Got it into the 21, so a lot of his punts were backed up, but he averaged 45.8 yards per punt. Got some decent hang time on him. The special teams unit, though, needs to do a bit better job tackling. Jabril Peppers had some good returns for him. The Giants had pretty solid field position all day due to things like our fumble and some getting pinned back and stuff like that. Overall, very good team win. Very excited what this team can offer. I was a little nervous at the beginning off to that sluggish start, but Big Ben really came up to his own, like I said, in that 2-minute drive to end the half. Benny Snell looks like he has running back 1 potential, and I'd love to keep an eye on him. These receivers showed they have skills and they have potential. Look for them to keep going. Be interesting to see if anyone truly emerges as that Ben's favorite target, but for now it looks like he spread the ball fairly evenly, at least between Juju and Deontay. Claypool and Washington are still more of those deep threat guys, but will definitely get more work in, especially with Claypool, who's only a rookie, first game ever, I guess real quick, the other rookie we can look at is the fact that, Alex Highsmith had a tackle today, actually had 1 decent pressure where he was chasing down Daniel Jones. That's nice to see. Obviously, he'll get a bit more snaps the more and more we go, but a pretty good rotational pass rusher, hopefully. Ola did decent with the pass rush. He missed this, he kind of whiffed on a sack that he needed and fell the other time, almost like Army called to try to get Daniel Jones. So he's getting there. His problem is just finishing off those plays. Oh, one thing I need to end on is, unfortunately, sorry, I have a time limit on my video today due to my phone space being weird. But unfortunately, great game, great win, and I'll preview the Broncos coming up in another video. But we lost 3 players to injury today, including James Conner with an ankle, which hopefully isn't too serious. Didn't sound too serious, but the 2 serious injuries were both to our offensive line. In fact, our starting guard and right tackle today, both on the right side of our offensive line, both lost potentially for a while with serious injuries. Steven Wisniewski had what I believe was a pectoral tear, which is bad. I think that's how Tuitt missed the rest of the season last year. It's just listed as pec for now, so we don't know the full extent of the damage. And Zach Banner had a knee injury, and he had to be carted off the field, so not great. He was visibly in tears, probably not much of the pain and more about the fact that he worked so hard to earn the starting job this year, and he just lost it on a fluke kind of play when we were already winning, kind of running the clock out. Really unfortunate. So we're going to be even shorter on this O-line coming into next week. I don't know if the cash will be ready to go. If he's not, you could either see them move Fowler. They can keep Fowler at left guard and just start. One sec. Your starters could be Kevin Dotson at right guard, filling in for the injured Wisniewski, and Chuck Secora stepping up and taking the starting right tackle spot, which was a close camp competition anyways. But the depth definitely takes a hit, and if the Castro's not playing, that's going to be harder. You're going to have a rookie starting in on that line. Unless, I don't know, there could be some shuffling. It'll be interesting to see what they do, because obviously Matt Fowler has position versatility. He can play tackle or guard, so we'll have to see what they do. but Kevin Dotson could get some playing time. He's flashed well in camp, so like I said, we'll see what happens. So let's hope they get better. We'll see. I'll see you guys for the preview of the next week's game. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and this breakdown. Steelers won. Let's go. Stairway to 7. Please click here to subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Up here is a playlist for my other Steelers videos. I'm going to be doing breakdowns, previews for each game, and the breakdowns of the games afterwards, so I hope you enjoy that. And over here is just a random video YouTube recommended from me. Alright guys, thank you very much. Please like this video and comment if you have any questions or you just want to talk about the game with me. I'd love to answer. I'm definitely reply to most of the comments I get, as long as they're not spam, which hopefully you're not. And then, yeah, that's it. Stay tuned for the next video, guys. Thank you so much. This is K-May Preston signing out. See you guys later. Go Steelers.